Greetings everyone, my name is Sai, and after the top 10 best and worst Gen 1 Pokemon videos I did, every one of you was practically clamoring for more. Well, I say everyone, but there were some dissenters. Kirby here, for example, was quite perturbed in his comment, saying, "I thought this was gonna be statistic, but it's just an idiot's bias." Now, Kirby's always been something of a role model to me, since we're both pink, squishy, and have a desire to eat everything around us, so I've made an attempt to fix this list so that only the strongest Pokemon at the very top of the OU metagame can qualify. So, that being said, the top 10 best Gen 2 Pokemon. Let's begin. Bjoo, which I'll admit I was loath to include here. I mean, imagine if a group of scientists got together and genetically engineered the most perfect, cutest dog on the entire planet. Sure, it's a shoo-in to win any contest you put it in, but it only won because it was focus tested out the ass, and I think you'd agree that it's more than a bit unfair to everyone else. I view Pichu as a cynically transparent attempt to cash in on Pikachu's cuteness, but fuck me if it doesn't work. So here you go, Game Freak. Here's your big prize. But know this, I'm putting my foot in the sand and drawing a line down, or however those metaphors go. This is the last time that just cloning Pikachu will get you anywhere with me. Nope, 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 nope. Okay, I'll make an exception for him. But otherwise, this is the last straw. I received quite a bit of, admittedly expected, derision for not including Scyther on the Gen 1 top 10 list. And why his absence, you may ask? About sums it up. I think he's an okay design, but it's a bit too busy for my tastes. The blades and the wings would have been enough to carry the design alone, but combine that with all of his armor, the spiky head, the spiky knees, and the abdomen, it's just too much. I mean, imagine trying to draw him. Yeah, exactly. However, of the Pokemon that looked like they were crossed with a small animal and a pissed-off razor blade inside one of Jeff Goldblum's teleportation pods, Skarmory really is the better one for my money. Its design is much simpler, while still being really sharp and striking, and the red wings really do pop against the steel-white body, making Skarmory one Pokemon that you don't want to mess with. If, Pokemon were real, which they aren't. But if they were, you wouldn't want to mess with it. When I think of Gen 2 as a whole, I consider it to actually be one of the more forgettable generations of Pokemon, and that's despite my first Pokemon game having been Crystal. There are just so many Pokemon that you forget even exist until you see them again and go, "Oh yeah, I guess that's a thing," before immediately forgetting about them again. Now, a Pokemon that could have very easily fallen into that trap just based off its design alone was Sudowoodo. But not only was it saved by its typing, it is elevated into one of my favorite Pokemon of the generation. Sudowoodo is a rock-type Pokemon that looks like a tree. It's not a grass-rock-type Pokemon like you might expect, it's just a rock-type. And that is genius. The pseudo part of its name is in reference to the word pseudo, which means fake. So Sudowoodo is literally fake wood, which I love. And additional credit is rewarded here for being probably the most interesting idea for a roadblock Game Freak has ever come up with. I struggled a bit over whether to choose Entei or Suicune for this spot, but at the end of the day, there's really no contest. Entei is just the best of the legendary dogs. Now, you might say that my love of the third movie has blinded me yet again, but I'd say there's a reason Entei got practically a whole movie to himself, while the most Suicune got was a brief cameo in Celebi's movie. Game Freak knew who the moneymaker was in terms of coolness. And similarly, that's also the reason why Raikou was never in anything, but I digress. Entei is right on the border of being too over-designed, but thankfully doesn't quite cross it. And quite frankly, giving him Dan Green's voice is almost unfair in terms of how much cooler it makes him. The Unknown. Now, just based off the games, these guys are kinda shit, and in fact, might even have ended up on the worst Pokemon list. but since, as discussed, this video is statistic, the unknown make the cut for just how amazing they were in the third movie. The third Pokemon movie is basically a kid's version of Silent Hill, as the unknown bring to life all of Molly's innermost desires using their uncontrollable Lovecraftian powers, and all the while singing the creepiest and yet somehow methodical and almost innocent chant. It's the coolest thing ever! Always off-putting, but equally intriguing, I love how unknowable the unknown are. So, remember how I talked shit about Moltres being a really shitty legendary, and how the idea of a bird embodying fire could be done so much better? Well, I said that because I know that Ho-Oh exists. You know when you draw a picture, and your first sketch is crap so you throw it away or hit Ctrl-Z or whatever? Yeah, Moltres feels like the really shitty first draft of Ho-Oh that should have been thrown away. And there is a simple test to prove this. In the very first episode of the anime, when they wanted a Pokemon to look majestic, to inspire awe, and to embody the sense of adventure the series and the games tried to create, did they decide to use Moltres or Ho-Oh? That's what I thought. Zato. Now, I usually am a fan of simplicity in Pokemon designs, and while Zato certainly isn't that, I would say it's about as close to the line of being over-designed as it is possible to be without actually being over-designed. Thankfully, Kyurem is still a few generations down the line at this point. So, Zato, being based off Native American totems, has a bunch of markings to indicate that, and the design is pretty complex, but it works here because the palette it uses is only 5 colors total: green, yellow, red, black, and white. Also, if you read the Pokedex entry for Zato, it says, Zato stands rooted and still in one spot all day long. People believe that this Pokemon does so out of fear of the terrible things it has foreseen in the future. So that's one theory, but personally, I like to believe that we have a Slowpoke situation going on here, and Zato is actually an idiot, but it just looks so cool that you would never know. Like Pichu before it, I do feel a certain amount of bitter resentment for placing Togepi on this list, although admittedly to a much lesser extent. At least this time, the unbearably cute baby thing they made was an actual original design, and feels less like it was manufactured to sell as many plushies as possible. But regardless, the design of Togepi itself is great. Ridiculously simple, yes, but the shapes and colors on the egg add just enough variety to keep it from being boring. And it's also the Pokemon I consider to be the embodiment of both the move metronome and the fairy typing as a whole, which is kinda weird considering Togepi existed like a decade before the fairy typing was actually a thing. Shinchou really is what I would classify as one of the most perfect Pokemon designs ever. Not necessarily the best, mind you, but just visually, every single little thing about its design works. Its body is a really nice deep shade of blue, which tells you it's a fish, and contrasts nicely with its yellow antenna and eyes. And speaking of which, the plus sign eyes would be the most adorable thing ever if it weren't for its tiny feet having already claimed that prize. There isn't a single thing that I don't love about how all of its individual parts come together. Not to mention how awesome the water-electric typing is in the first place, and how much that works as part of its design. Like, it's clearly a fish, but the yellow antenna give you an idea of how it attacks, and the electric theme is reinforced in its plus sign eyes. You know, positive, negative currents and all that. And finally, you have to give Game Freak massive amounts of credit for making an anglerfish look cute. Shinchou is beauty in simplicity. What else can you say? Umbreon and Espeon, but only together. By themselves, each of these Pokemon are still really good, but together, they complement each other perfectly. Psychic and Dark make a fantastic pair. Their designs contrast off each other, one being a dark black while the other's a much softer pink. One's a dog-looking kind of thing, the other's a cat-looking kind of thing. It's just perfection. Now, you might say that I'm being biased here, because Pokemon Coliseum is my favorite Pokemon game, and you'd be right. But really, But really, would anyone disagree that these are by far the best evolutions? Well, yes, but those people are going to be put to the stake when my regime takes over. But even those heretics have to admit that they are the best evolutions in Gen 2 by a country mile. But they're the only evolutions in Gen... Hey everyone, did you know that I have a Twitter? It's true. And you can check it out by going to @thatsciguy, link below. Also, I have videos for both the top 10 best and top 10 worst Gen 1 Pokemon, which you should really go check out if you haven't already. Special thanks to my Patreon patrons, including Princess Scotch Tape, Joe Anderson, Forgotten Paladin, Jada Prog, Calvin Ryman, Ludwig, Isaiah Christo, Mythnut, Soul, Renataja, Sydney Bennett, Dingo's Trash, and Logomorphos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.